Okay. In today's class, we are interested to explore the job order costing. So before going to understand that how job order costing works, let me share one case where the job order costing is required and what is the context. So you people are very much familiar, as you are now juniors, that you together decide to have a common t-shirt which will on which you will have some university logo or your batch identity or your name, these things. So you like to take a t-shirt with some customized design which is not available in the shopping center. So what you do, you collect some subscription from the people and go to some places like we used to do this task in Gulistan, and also there are some places in Jatrabari where some shops take this kind of order. They will prepare customized t-shirt for you based on the customization given by you. There will be some screen printing, there will be some preferred color, there will be some preferred sizes, there will be some preferred write-up on the t-shirt. So you see that in this case, they do not charge based on the, although you collect the subscription based on the number of t-shirt one or two, one student will be taking, but the person or the company who will be producing your order, he or she gives you a quote that for this number of t-shirts with this design, with this color, with this clothing, you have to pay a lump sum amount. So what you do, you divide that lump sum amount by the number of t-shirts you are requiring to get an idea of unit cost. But the way how the shopper or how the manufacturer charges cost is based on the customized job you have assigned to them. So for that particular order, for that particular customized order, they require some preferred clothes preferred by you, and you have preferred some kind of screen painting, and you have also preferred that whether it will be 2 colors or it will be 4 colors. So you preferred this, and based on this, say that total amount of t-shirts you will be taking from that manufacturer is 100 or 150, and based on that, he makes a separate costing based on the job given by you. So that is an area where job costing or job order costing is used. So from this case, let's try to understand that what is the job here. The job here is to make an order or prepare an order of 100 t-shirts with particular style, with particular screen painting, with particular say sizes, these things. So it's a kind of customized thing, and in total it is known as job. It is known as job, and you see that how it is different from the simple product costing. In simple product costing, what companies do? Companies sell standardized product to the customers. Standardized, some form of standardized. But here you see that your order has been customized. If you're a customer, you have customized your order based on your customization. And it happens to some particular companies, not all companies. Say I have given you an example of a company which produces a t-shirt for the students. So for that particular kind of company, job order costing is used. So what they do, they assign the cost of the production to a job, not to a product. They assign cost of what? Manufacturing cost. They assign the manufacturing cost to the job. So there are some conditions where the job order costing is used. You see that products are manufactured to order. Based on the order, products are okay. 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 So what you need to do first, you need to place an order. Based on that order, products are manufactured. And what we discussed that the order you are placing is a kind of unique nature. Why unique nature? I already have mentioned the reason that you are specifying the things of the products. Okay. So the costing is maintained for each job separately. And it is also an application of absorption costing. The idea is that all the manufacturing cost of the manufacturing process will be assigned to the products to absorb the manufacturing cost. So you can relate it with what we learned about the cost classification for external reporting purpose, product cost and period cost. So when you are assigning all manufacturing cost, whether direct or indirect, and you are attributing this cost to the product, you are making the product cost separately, and you are doing some costs which are periodic in nature, and you are separating the period cost which are not the product cost and which can be attributed to a particular period rather than to the product. So job order costing is an application of absorption costing, where we are assigning all the cost of manufacturing to the products. And here you see that when I'm saying that products are in combination are part of the job. And in a job, say 100 t-shirts is in a particular job. So you can simply determine the cost per unit of product by dividing the total job cost by the number of products which will be covered in that particular job. Okay. So what are other companies which uses the job order costing? There are some interesting examples. Boeing, for commercial aircraft manufacturing, they use the job order costing, and it is very natural. It's not like that Boeing has a showroom where they display the aircraft and customers visit their showroom and purchase the Boeing aircraft from them. It's not like that. Rather, the airlines operator from different countries submit their requisition, submit their order that we require 10 aircrafts of this model for this customization. And the seats will be like this, and there will be painting on the cover of the aircraft in this way, which will include the national flag or the logo of our airlines company in this way. So you can easily expect that Boeing should use the job order costing to make the costing of their customized order placed by the customer. Okay. And there are some other companies, and one company is here, the service company, Walt Disney Studios. So you can understand that service companies also use the job order costing. Okay. So for the job order costing purpose, we like to proceed that how it is actually made, that or how it is actually done. So for each job, you require some direct materials, you require some direct labors. So you can easily expect that these direct materials and direct labor, you can easily attribute this to the jobs. I'll show you the quantitative example later. But you can easily identify that for a particular job, you are very sure that how much direct materials will be required. Think of the t-shirt example that you know that for, say, job number 1 contains the 100 t-shirts order placed by a student of Department of Finance. So that job requires 100 t-shirts, and you know very well that how much direct materials will be required for producing or for manufacturing that order. And you also have a clear idea that how much direct labor will be required for that particular job. And it is easy to trace the direct materials cost and direct labor cost for the jobs. So it is easier, but which one is challenging? The overhead, which is indirect cost and indirect cost, but part of the manufacturing cost. And you have some ambiguity that how can you assign the overhead cost to the jobs. So obviously you have to assign in some convenient way, but the thing we like to learn here that it is challenging particularly. So let me give you an example that the machine which will be printing the screen on your t-shirt, that machine requires some kind of grease. So that grease material is a kind of lubricant. So it's not like that for job number 1, they require 2 liters of lubricant. It cannot be like that. They have to apply the lubricant or grease to that machine based on the condition of the machine. If the machine now demands lubricant or grease, they will apply it. Otherwise, they will not apply it. They'll continue the manufacturing. So when they're continuing their manufacturing of the jobs or orders, it may be like that for the given amount of grease, 3 jobs have been produced. So it is particularly challenging that how you assign this kind of cost, kind of overhead cost to the jobs. I'll show you that whether there's any solution. Okay. And it is also sometimes we have a tendency to force the indirect cost to make it a direct cost. It cannot be. Okay, we cannot force some manufacturing overhead cost to play like the direct cost. Okay, so it's by nature it is indirect cost. So think of the utilities, which is a purely indirect cost. So it is particularly challenging that how we will assign the indirect cost to the different jobs. Okay. So let me take an example and how the job order costing is used, and we will also try to solve the challenges what we have identified. Okay. So before going to the application of job order costing, let me show you a document on the screen which is reflecting the job cost sheet by its name. So by its name, what it implies that it records the materials, it records the labor, it records the overhead, and it records what? It records the units required for direct materials, the unit of direct labors required, unit of manufacturing overhead required, and their cost, which can be charged to a particular job. This is the particular job A143. So in summary, what does it mean, or what does it record? It records the cost of direct materials, cost of direct labor, cost of manufacturing overhead, which can be assigned to a particular job. So job order costing will prepare the things which will be required to fill this job cost sheet. You see so many blanks here. So I will try to work on this, that how at the end of the learning we can prepare the job cost sheet. Okay. So it is not a kind of thing that which will be prepared manually, rather it will be prepared in a computerized system. But I will show you that how it can be prepared manually, so that you can easily understand that how computer traces the cost of direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead cost, and how computer compute the cost required for a particular job number and prepare this kind of sheet. Okay. So you have got the idea of the job cost sheet. Let's proceed with the first item, the direct materials. What we are doing, we are making the job order costing. And here we are trying to see that how the job cost sheet is prepared by looking at each of the components of the job cost sheet separately. So first of all, we like to see the direct material. Okay. So from the example of t-shirt, can you identify what are the direct materials to be used for this kind of order? Say,
Sir, cloth.
right, cloth. Then paint color,
Button.
color, button, these things. Okay, these are the some direct materials, right? So obviously these are in your store. These things what you just have mentioned, these things are in store. So what you need to do, you need to make a requisition. So you have prepared a demand note. So you are demanding for what? You are demanding for the materials. What kind of materials? Direct materials. Note that direct materials which will be required to complete this order A143. Recall what is our job number A143. For this job number A143, we require these materials. Okay. So this is example of some other kind of manufacturing or some other kind of job, but think of what will happen, what will be placed here. You will place here the length of the cloth, or you have some ready-made t-shirt which are in no print, I mean the blank t-shirt, you just make the screen print. Okay, so you see that 100 blank t-shirt. Okay, so you'll write it where in the description part, and you require say 5 liters of paint color. Okay, so you see 5 will be here and the 100 will be here for the purpose of quantity, and you write the description of the material here, and you write the unit cost, and you write the total cost here. What you're doing, you are preparing a requisition form, and you will place it in the storeroom, and the storekeeper will release this amount of products, this amount of materials from the storeroom to the I mean the production plant for this job. So is it clear, the materials requisition form? So what does it contain? It contains the description of the materials, it contains the cost of the materials, and it contains the total cost of the direct materials. Okay, and it will be assigned to a particular job. So also prepare a bill of materials to identify that these materials are required of this quantity, and it will help you to record the cost of the direct materials. So let's turn back to the job cost sheet. So how much direct materials we are requiring for this particular job A143? We are requiring this amount of direct materials cost, $116. So it will be transferred to where? Can you recall this blank one? We can write here the requisition number from where? From this requisition form. So where is the requisition number? This one, X7-6890. Now you see it is here. It is here. Okay. So what is the amount of the direct amount of cost for the direct materials? It is 116. So what we are doing? We are placing this cost here, 116. And for the summary purpose, we are also placing the 116 here. And for the purpose of direct labor, what happens? For the purpose of direct labor, there are some technicalities which is required to understand. And you probably can recall that what we have learned regarding the concept of direct labor, the amount of labor which can be directly assigned to a particular product. But here, instead of product, we will say that it is our job. So the amount of labor charges which can be assigned particularly to a job, that will be part of our direct labor cost. So there is an application of computer system that how it happens, that employees use a time ticket. Employees use a time ticket to record the amount of labor they have employed to a particular job, and the amount of charge they will be charging from a particular job, and these things will be recorded based on the time ticket. So what happens actually? So let's think of this employee name. I'm skilled. This is an employee name. Okay, so think of this is an employee name, and he has the computer generated time ticket number 36. So what he does every day, when he or she enters to a factory, he makes a scanning. So what kind of a scanning? You probably have seen the kind of a scanning what the super shop staffs do when they calculate the amount of bills for your products you have purchased from them. So they make a scanning on their on the product. Okay, the kind of there are some barcode, and they charge the product price based on that barcode. So employees here also they make the scanning, and they make a scanning of barcode. So that barcode indicates what? That barcode indicates some information which has kind of information. What is the starting time of the job, or when you are starting? When you are starting, and what is your ID? This employee has a particular ID, and it also scans the job ID for what job you are now assigning yourself, or what job we are assigning you to, which job. So this is during the starting time. So when the task is completed for the particular job, or it can goes on a daily or periodic basis. But if we think of that, it ends every day. In that case, every day there will be repetition until the job is completed. 143, 143. It's like that in a particular day, he works from the 8 a.m. to 16 p.m. I mean the 8 to 16 o'clock. And during this time, he completed this 8 hours on a rate of $15 for this amount, 120. But you see, he might engage in some other orders. Why it is required to scan the job number during the barcode scanning? He might be engaging in 150 number of job, or this is the job number, separate job number. So he might be engaged in some other jobs. So you are now interested with this particular job. So what computer will trace? Computer will trace for this particular job, this employee spent how much hours, and how much we need to pay to this labor in total for this job. So when you will complete this, what you will do? You have got the time ticket from this 36. You see here I have identified, and 8 hours labor completed, and in total 120 ticket labors has been charged, okay, for the job. Remember, it's not for product, for the job. And now what is remaining? The manufacturing overhead, which is particularly challenging. So I have given you some idea that why it is challenging. And how the company assigns the overhead cost to their jobs, okay? So there is an idea that we will apply the overhead cost, and we will determine a predetermined overhead rate. What will determine? We will determine a overhead rate. So overhead rate determination is a idea that as you cannot assign the overhead cost to the job on a precise basis, what you like to do, you like to think of what will be your manufacturing overhead cost primarily. So some manufacturing overhead costs are kind of variable. Some overhead cost manufacturing are fixed cost. Okay. So let me give you an idea that so that you will understand the application of allocation base. So some jobs are labor based. Think of we already have talked about the direct labor, direct materials. So instead of completing the direct, in addition to completing the direct labor, still the manufacturing overhead requires some activities, say packaging, these things, which is kind of labor intensive, which is a kind of labor intensive. So determining the overhead rate is an idea that try to determine the factor which actually dominantly drives your overhead cost. Say out of the overhead cost, I am thinking that the indirect labor cost is a dominant, and if my uh, labor hour goes up, my overhead cost will also go up. And there's a close relation between the number of labor hours and the amount of overhead cost. So in that case, you can take it as an allocation base, the number of direct labor hours. So this is one idea, but sometimes there is an issue that your manufacturing cost is dominantly influenced by the machine hours. In that case, count the machine hours as an allocation base. What you'll do, you determine the approximate manufacturing overhead cost, and you divide this number by the total number of machine hours. Let me complete this. Total machine hours means what? Or total direct labor hours means what? Total machine hours means that I have an idea that in a particular year in 2021, my machine will run for 10,000 hours, and I have an idea that by this time I will take or complete order of 200 jobs. So roughly, I'm assuming that for 200 jobs, what I will do, I will have to run my machine at least for 10,000 hours. So what we'll do, I will take these machine hours as an allocation base, and I will separate. I will divide the total number of total amount of manufacturing overhead cost by this number of machine hours. What I will get a rate. I will get a rate, and that rate is the rate of overhead per machine hour. And I will apply, I will show you that how can you apply it. But you see that I am thinking of this allocation base, or I'm thinking of this overhead cost before actually incurring the manufacturing overhead cost for the jobs. I'm doing this in advance. I'm doing this in advance. I'll show you that what are the challenges of assigning the overhead cost in advance and why it is required. I will explain it later, but for this time, try to understand that it is a predetermined. Predetermined means it is determined before the actual incurrence of the manufacturing overhead cost. That's why the term is overhead. Predetermined. Okay. Now, the question, why the allocation base is required? Why we rely on the allocation base to determine the predetermined overhead cost? The answer are like this, that manufacturing overhead cost, there is no a confusion that it is a kind of indirect cost. So it is particularly challenging to assign the manufacturing overhead cost to the particular product or particular jobs because of the nature of the cost, because it is an indirect cost. Okay. And what kind of costs are included in the manufacturing overhead cost? A number of varieties. Example starts from cost of grease used in the machine. It ranges to the production manager's salary. And out of the manufacturing overhead cost, some cost nature are fixed, some cost nature are variable, which fluctuate in response to fluctuation of the output. I have given you the idea here. So we have got the idea that how we use a predetermined overhead rate to assign the cost of manufacturing overhead. I'll show you that how we can apply it. Then I will explain that what are the challenges of doing this kind of application and why we rely on this. Okay. So you already have got the idea that how we'll determine it is just kind of writing in a formula form that how we will determine the predetermined overhead rate. So we will estimate the total manufacturing overhead cost. Think of it includes two parts. One is variable, another part is fixed. So we have to determine the total cost. It is the numerator. And how we'll determine the rate? I will determine the rate by dividing this total cost by the allocation base. So it is important to understand that the allocation based should be the cost driver. You probably can recall when I was mentioning that my manufacturing overhead cost goes up when the direct labor goes up, or when the direct labor when the direct labor goes down, my manufacturing overhead cost goes down. So it indicates that in some way the direct labor is behaving like a cost driver, which is causing the changes in the total overhead cost. It's not like that always the direct labor, it can be any cost driver. Okay. So the one which is relevant, take that cost driver. Okay. So consider that as a allocation base. Okay. So why we need the predetermined overhead rate? So what are the issues that why we need this? The answer to this question is that, say, recall the t-shirt example. So I will complete the order within 15 days, right? Or within 30 days, or within 10 days. So over a period of 365 days, I will complete number of jobs during this time. So it might be like that the predetermined overhead rate is actually greater than what we incurred at the end of the period. So why these are different? Because we have used an estimated. We have used an estimated rate, but when we have incurred, or when we have actually computed it, we see that the actual actual overhead rate is lower, or actual overhead rate is greater than the estimated cost. So you see that I have to determine the cost of the job within this time to get the price from you. But the nature of the overhead cost is like that it may range for 6 months or it may range for 1 year. So can I tell my customer that I will take the payment from you after 6 months when I will complete the costing of the overhead cost? Is it possible?
No, sir.
It is not possible. So what I need to do at this time, I have to estimate something.
Yes,
I have
sir.
to estimate the overhead cost. But it is very likely that actual overhead cost might go down or might go up. So we do not know, but we have to plan here at this point. But we don't know what is going to happen here. So we are trying to estimate what is going to happen here or what is going to happen. I do not know in which direction it will go. So there are some reasons, or that are some motivations that why we need the predetermined overhead. Okay. So there are usually 4 steps to compute the predetermined overhead rate. It is nothing special. It is just kind of the summary what we have learned. First of all, you need to determine that what will be your allocation base, the denominator. Okay. So I have given you the idea that allocation base should be some factor which drives your cost. It can be direct labor hours, it can be machine hours. And why you are doing this? We are doing this for assigning our overhead cost to production services. Okay. And remember, this allocation base is common to all products your company is manufacturing. It's not like that it is required for some manufacturing of some types of product. It is not required for some other types of products. Okay. And you have to determine, it is the denominator. Okay. What will be the denominator? And estimate the total fixed manufacturing overhead cost for the coming period and the variable manufacturing overhead cost. It is an application of the linear equation like this. Okay. And how you will determine the total variable cost? You will multiply the amount of variable manufacturing overhead cost by the total number of allocation based you have estimated. Can you recall that I estimated that uh, 200. Okay, so let's assume that is the kind of x number. X indicates what? X indicates that I will require 10,000. I mean the allocation base here first. Remember that I will require the 10,000 direct labor hour, 10,000 direct labor hours, and this is my allocation base. And let's say that 100,000 is my total manufacturing overhead cost estimated. And what is the rate in that case? 1. Okay. And how can I apply the manufacturing overhead cost to a particular job? Say in my job of 100 t-shirts, I'm requiring 50 labor hours. How much? 50 direct labor hours. So this 50 is the X. I mean the for the particular job I require the 50. It's a kind of application part, but here you see that it actually indicates the way that how we have got this 100,000. It's kind of 80,000 cost is variable and 20,000 cost is fixed. This is for what? This is for the total amount of manufacturing overhead. So note that it is a kind of variable cost, it is a kind of fixed cost. So it's kind of, if we assume that we will require variable manufacturing overhead cost per unit, $8, and our allocation base is 10,000. And this is this part. Okay. B indicates what? B indicates our allocation base 10,000. And X indicates the per unit variable manufacturing overhead cost. So you determine the rate. So I have determined the rate as $1. And I will apply, say, what I was saying here for the job of 100 t-shirts. Let's assume that I will require the 50 units of direct labor, which is our allocation base here. So I need to multiply this 50 by $1 per unit per direct labor overhead cost. In that case, the total manufacturing overhead cost for my job will be 50. So in this way, we can check a calculation by a case to see that PRCO estimates that it will require 160,000 direct labor hours to meet the coming period's estimated production level. So they have assumed that direct labor hours is their cost driver. So if it goes up, their manufacturing overhead cost goes up, otherwise it come down. Okay. And it is estimated that they will produce a certain amount of goods, and for that purpose they will require 160,000 direct labor hours. So this will reflect the variable portion of the variable portion of the overhead rate. But in addition to the variable portion, there are some overhead overhead cost which looks like the nature of fixed 200,000. And variable manufacturing overhead cost of 2.75 per direct labor hour. Okay. So what will be the total manufacturing overhead? It will be 200,000 plus 160,000 direct labor hours multiplied by the rate of $2.75 per direct labor hour manufacturing overhead cost. Okay. So the summation will be this one, 640,000. What I need to do now, I need to get the predetermined overhead rate by dividing the total 640,000 estimated total manufacturing overhead by the estimated allocation base. What is my allocation base here? Direct labor hours, which is 160,000. So what will be my predetermined overhead rate? $4 per direct labor hour. So what I was saying that for a particular job, this one, we are thinking that particular job requires how many direct hour labor? 8 hours. So we can take it as a base here, direct labor hour, because our predetermined overhead rate is based on the direct labor hour. That's why I have taken the base from here. Okay. So the 8 is here. And what is the rate? The rate is predetermined overhead rate, $4. And if we take the $4, what will be my total manufacturing overhead cost? 32. And if I take this number to the summary sheet, 32, and I can determine what will be my total cost of the job. Can you determine it? So up to this, it is
Yes, sir.
okay. How can we get the manufacturing overhead cost? We need to get some predetermined overhead rate, and we get the predetermined overhead rate by dividing the total estimated manufacturing overhead cost by the allocation base, and allocation base is something which is a cost driver, and cost driver is an idea. If that base goes up, my manufacturing overhead cost goes up, and if the cost driver or the direct labor hours in our case, if it goes down, my manufacturing overhead cost goes down. Okay. So if we determine the total cost, we just need to sum up these three and we'll get the unit product cost. How? Unit product cost, we can determine it by dividing the total cost by the number of products to be produced in the job. Okay. So in this particular job, A143, it is probably the job for supplying a material which will be required for the roller coaster. So the unit covered in that job is 2. So if we divide this total cost 268 by the number of units, in that case, we will get the unit product cost. Okay, that is the 134. Okay. Now there's a quick check that will check your understanding. Okay. So let's try to get the opinion from you. Job WR53 is the job ID number at NW5 Incorporation, require $200 of direct materials and 10 direct labor hours at $15 per hour. Estimated total overhead for the year was $760,000 and estimated direct labor hours are at 20,000. Okay, what would be the recorded as the cost of the job WR53? Remember, separate it down. This 10 direct labor hours is required only for this job. But this total overhead 760,000 fixed nature and estimated direct labor. Okay, it is the total which includes the fixed overhead and the variable overhead. Okay, and it is the allocation base direct labor hours are 20,000. So can anyone please answer that this estimated direct labor hours can be is estimated direct labor hours for this job or for this company?
So for this job
For
WR53,
company.
For this job, we require 10 direct labor hours. We require 20,000 direct labor hours for all the jobs to be completed by NW Fab Incorporation in the coming year. Am I clear now?
yes, sir.
Okay. So how can we get the?
So here the answer will be
So how can
730.
we get the one by one, please? Please respond one by
So I
one.
said the answer will be 730.
Please respond one by one.
So I said the answer will be 730, where the manufacturing overhead will be 380 for this job, and the direct materials will be $200, and the direct labor will be $150.
Okay.
In total, it will be
Good.
$730.
Okay. So we need to determine the predetermined overhead rate first by dividing the 760,000 total overhead cost by the number of allocation base, which is our 20,000. Okay. So it is the 38. And for the job order costing, we require 10 direct labor hour for the purpose of manufacturing overhead. So what we'll apply? We'll multiply the 38 predetermined overhead rate by the 10 hours, which is the requirement for this
job.
WR53. So this is $380 and you should have no confusion with this two from where this have come, and total cost is 730. Okay, so let's discuss from some managerial perspective regarding the job order costing and how it is particularly challenging and why. Okay, so you have got the idea of job order costing, and there are some holistic objectives that why we require the job order costing. So there is no issue that we require the job order costing because of the nature of the task assigned by the company. Number of nature of the jobs done by the company. It's not like that some companies, say for example, our textile manufacturing, all companies are particularly the best example for using the job order costing. They do not produce their shirts, produce their material, produce their clothings without order. They receive an order first, and which is in general the customized order. Say Walmart has a customized order to textile manufacturing company in our country, garment company. And similarly, if the company is a Tesco, in that case, the order will be different. But both orders will be supplied by the same company, but based on the customer's customization, the orders are different. The order are kind of different jobs to them. And that is a particular area that why job order costing is required. Okay. Now, you see that a company does not do a particular job only. They might do job of different nature. Say they have a job of something like preparing or manufacturing t-shirt. At the same time, they also take job for manufacturing some backpack. Okay. So you see, based on the product nature, there usually serve two type of jobs. But out of the one job, there are so many customized job. But broadly, they supply two types of job. One is job for supplying t-shirt, another one is job for supplying backpacks. Okay. Now you see, some companies need to, not some companies, all companies need to know their cost precisely for making their promotional programs. And now you see that if they find that their backpacks, the job for backpacks are more profitable relative to the job for manufacturing t-shirt for the students, in that case, which job they will tend to promote or which job they will tend to stop?
The job for backpack will be more preferable as it was profitable.
Yeah. So it is essential that we can determine how profitable a particular job is. And it is only possible if we do the job order costing. And in addition to that, they have to determine the pricing precisely to make their jobs profitable. You see that people take the catering services for some programs, reception program, then for some celebration programs, people take the catering services. So you see that when people take the catering services, the catering service provider take their order as a separate job. Okay, because based on the nature of the order, the jobs are customized. I mean, the orders are customized because of the demand of different customers. And they charge the price, say per plate, per plate they will charge 650, or per plate they will charge 550, or per plate they charge 600. Okay, it's a price usually charged by the catering service providers in Dhaka city for the wedding program or the reception program. Okay, these are some prices. You need to have some idea that what kind of prices they charge for the plates they offer. It can also be 450. It can also be 950, based on what kind of order you are placing and what kind of customization you are making. Okay, you see, this pricing decision is a very critical. So why it is critical? Because if they cannot assign, if they cannot do the costing properly, they will not be able to come up with a precise pricing. So for that purposes, the job order costing is very crucial. Now, we have already observed that this area are easy to handle for the costing, direct materials and direct labor, because it can be directly attributed to the products to be manufactured or to the services to be rendered. Okay. But which area is very much challenging? The area of manufacturing overhead. So what kind of solution we have come up? What we'll do for solving the challenges of allocating the manufacturing overhead cost to the job? We have come up with a solution
Predicted.
with some allocation base, right? We'll use some allocation base to get the predetermined overhead cost, and we'll apply the predetermined overhead rate. Now, allocation base is our critical thing. From this understanding, have you got the how crucial the appropriately determining the allocation base is? Okay, if you take an allocation base which is not actually reflecting the cost of cost driver, in that case, you will not come up with a good decision. Let me give you an interesting example given in your text. Okay. Okay, so you see that which area is challenging? Which area? Direct material, direct labor, or manufacturing overhead?
Manufacturing overhead.
Manufacturing overhead is challenging.
Manufacturing overhead is challenging.
Yeah, because of the allocation, because we cannot assign it precisely, and we have come up with a simplistic solution, that is taking an allocation base and apply the predetermined overhead rate to the jobs based on the cost driver, or based on the number of direct labor hour, number of machine hours. Okay. So an interesting example has been given to you in your text, which I like to share with you, that you have gone to a restaurant with some of your friends. So you together have placed an order for extra large pizza, and that pizza will cost, say, something 2,000 taka, and you are four people. So two of your the pizza has been sliced into 8 units, 8 slices. Okay, how many of you are? Four people. Okay, how many slices of the pizza has been made?
8 slices.
Okay, so out of your 2 friends, sorry,
8 slices.
out of your 4 friends, 2 of your friends have consumed 6 slices. Out of your 4 friends, sorry, out of you 4 people, you are also included in the 4. 2 friends have consumed how many slices?
6 slices.
6 slices. And your another friend has consumed one slice, and you are the remaining, you also have consumed one slice. Now, the waiter has come up with the bill of 2,000 taka. Okay, it's not dollar. Okay, taka. So friends are saying, let's pay bill equally because we have taken 4 seats. So divide the 2,000 by 4 seats and 500 per seat. So how much you will pay? How much you need to pay? If the cost is allocated based on the number of seats,
500.
500. If the cost is allocated based on the number of slices consumed by the people,
250.
250. Okay, now in that case, how much you have to pay?
250.
250. You see, just by simply changing the allocation base, your cost have changed significantly.
Yes, sir. Double.
Now you see, which is actually driving the cost of the pizza? The slices you are consuming or the number of chairs in which you are sitting?
Slice should be appropriate.
The slices that we are consuming.
Slice should be appropriate.
So which should be the allocation base?
Slice, number of slices.
Number of slices should be
Slices.
allocation base here. But if you forcefully apply the number of chairs as an allocation base, what will happen?
I'll be worse off. My friends would be better off.
Okay, so it happens. So it's not like that we need to be overly simplistic regarding the taking of allocation base, because if your allocation base is not something which is not the true cost driver, in that case your planning will not be good. Okay, so you need to identify what is the cost driver, what is the cost driver that is causing the changes in your overhead cost significantly. Obviously there might be a number of drivers, but you have to identify that or that driver which is precisely or dominantly influencing the changes of the overhead cost. Okay, so for coming up or solving these challenges, there is an alternative solution. Instead of taking a single allocation base, not single allocation base, it will look at multiple predetermined overhead rate. Instead of relying on the single predetermined overhead rate, we will look at the multiple predetermined overhead rate. Now, what is the idea? The idea of the multiple predetermined overhead rate is to understand that there is one example that how many units of production department your job has to flow. Let's think of that you have two departments, one is milling, another one is assembly. So your job has to flow the milling department first, then your job has to flow to the assembly department last to become the finished job. Okay, so how can we determine the predetermined overhead rate separately for the milling purpose, for the milling department, and for the assembly department? So why it is essential? The idea is that you see the milling department is mostly machine intensive department. You see that this requires how many machine hours? This department, 60,000 machine hours. Which department? Milling department. But the assembly department, you see, in this part, which is dominating, the labor hours is dominating. Assembly department, machine hours is obviously present, but in the assembly department, only 3,000 machine hours is used. Okay, it is particularly for the whole year, not for a particular job. It is a kind of idea that you like to identify the appropriate allocation based on the understanding of the nature of the task done by a department. Okay. So let me read the case for you. Dixon Company has two production departments. Two are required, obviously, milling and assembly. The company uses a job order costing system and computes a predetermined overhead rate in each production department. The predetermined overhead rate in the milling department is based on the machine hours. They have already determined machine hours. And in the assembly department, it is based on the direct labor hours. Have you got the idea why they have chosen this way? Why they have not chosen only the direct labor hours, regardless of the nature of the milling and assembly department?
Yes, sir.
Because of the nature of the task done by the department. Okay. The company uses cost plus pricing and a markup percentage of 75% of the total manufacturing cost to establish the selling prices for all of the jobs. At the beginning of the year, the company made the following estimate. Okay, that is the idea that why it is predetermined. Before doing the jobs, before starting of the jobs, before starting of the year, you are determining the overhead cost. Okay, you see that fixed manufacturing overhead cost for the milling department is this amount. Fixed manufacturing overhead cost for the assembly department is this amount, and it is the variable manufacturing overhead cost for the milling department, which is given per machine hour. Remember, why it is given in per machine hour? Because milling department is a machine intensive department. Machine intensive department where machine is used mostly. But in case of assembly department, the variable manufacturing overhead cost is given based on the per direct labor hour. What is the reason? Because assembly department is a department which is mostly
labor intensive.
labor hour or labor intensive based department. That's why this rate is given per direct labor hour. Okay. So you need to find out for a particular job how many machine hours are required, and for that particular job, how many direct labor hours are required for assigning the predetermined overhead cost from the milling and the assembly department. Okay, so let's complete it. So for the milling department, what you are doing, you are determining the total. The first step, you are determining what? You are determining the total overhead cost for each department. So for this one, the total should be 390,000 plus 60,000 multiplied by 2. It is the total manufacturing overhead cost, right? For the milling department, it is the fixed portion. Can you recall the y equal to a plus bx? Here a
Yes,
is
sir.
equal to 390,000, b is
Yes,
equal
sir.
to $2, and x is equal to activity hours
60,000.
60,000. That's why it is the 510,000. Okay. Similarly, for assembly department, it is 800,000. And what we need to do in the second step, we need to determine the rate. We need to determine the rate. How can you determine the rate? We need to divide the 510,000 total manufacturing overhead cost of milling department by the number of machine hours. By the number of machine hours. In that case, we get a rate 58.5, which is per machine hour. Note it. Okay. And for the assembly department, as it is a labor intensive department, we need to divide this total manufacturing overhead cost by the number of direct labor hours, which is 80,000. We get the $10 per direct labor hour. Okay. Now, for the particular job, which is job 407, we have no confusion with the direct material and direct labor cost. We have confusion regarding how we'll assign the manufacturing overhead cost. You see, for the job 407, machine hours used 90. I mean the 90 machine hours. And for the assembly part, how many machine hours is required? 4. And for the purpose of overhead cost, what we will take the 90. Here it is 90, and we'll multiply this by which one? This one, 850. 850, 8 as not 850, 8.5. So 8.5, we get the 765. So predetermined overhead cost based on what? From the perspective of miling department, and for the assembly department part, you see that both parts are required, both departments are required for completing the job. And for the assembly department, which one will be taking? This 5 or this 20?
20.
We'll take the 20. And what is our assembly department predetermined overhead rate? It is $10. Okay, so 20 multiplied by 10, it is 200. And what will be our total cost? For the miling, we have the 800 direct materials. Sorry, for milling, I need to be precise. Okay, the direct labor cost is 70 here. And what is the total overhead cost? We get the 765. It is for the milling. It is for the milling. Okay, here it is. Similarly for assembly. And you see, for milling, we have got this total cost. For assembly, we have got this total cost. Whatever the way you sum up this, you get the $2,485. The total cost for which job? The job number 407. And you see, can you recall that the manufacturer was asking that I will place a markup of 75%? As then if we may place a markup of 75% on the 2,485, I will get a markup of 1,863. And how much selling price for the job 407? This selling price will be charged. This is an idea that how you get a total costing of the t-shirts you order to a manufacturer, customized t-shirt, you pay this amount of price, which includes the costing and which also includes the markup, and the costing has been done in this way. So if you ignore this, your selling price will not be appropriate. Okay, now I like to ask a question. There is an alternative approach of making the predetermined overhead rate, that is the activity-based costing. Instead of the department, what we have done, yes, instead of assigning cost based on the department, 5 department, 2 department, 3 department, we can look at the number of activity which is required for making the job completed. So based on that number of activity, for each activity, say we need to do 3 activities for completing a particular job. In that case, based on that activity, we can make the assignment of predetermined overhead rate or overhead costing. And it can be like that 2 activities are done by 1 department, or this 1 activity is done by 1 department. So this is the way that how activity-based costing is different from the job department-based costing. Okay, so we'll have a separate chapter for activity-based costing in the later of our contents. We'll explore more about the activity-based costing later. But before finishing today's class, what we like to ask that from you, there is a kind of quiz question. How many units will be produced in the job 407? Is there any idea in the question? how many units of products will be required. Okay, I see that number has not been present. Okay. I do not see, but the question is like that. If the job consists of say 100 units of product, and now if the job in the same job you are requiring now 102 units, will your markup cost, what you have added, not the markup cost, sorry, the manufacturing overhead cost, this manufacturing overhead cost will be changed or it will remain same? Is my question clear? Under the job 407, I'm assuming you had to supply 100 units of product, and we know that how much overhead cost, how much direct material, how much labor cost will be used. Now my question is that if we add 2 more products within the same job 407, will my manufacturing overhead cost go up, go down, or will remain same?
So it will remain same.
It will remain same. And which will go up? Other than the manufacturing overhead, which cost will go up? What about the direct materials and the direct
Yes, sir.
Direct materials and direct labor barbe.
Okay. Can you recall the
Direct materials
idea
and
that
labor
what
will
we
go up.
discussed in the class, incremental costing? Incremental cost, can you recall? Differential cost. You see that out of these 3 costs,
Yes, differential cost. Yes.
yeah, which are changing and which are not changing. Okay. So that is the ending of our today's class. Let's stop the recording first.